All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Campus to Canton Live. That is Chris Moxley. I am Matt Bruning, and we are going to be doing a best ball underdog college football best ball draft here in a minute. We are waiting for it to get full. Hoping Chris and I are both in the same draft. So until that happens, we're going to go through my team, a very much a novice. I have actually never I can't say I've never done a best ball. I think I did one best ball for either Jared or Dwight like 2 years ago. I have never done another one since. None of my college teams or C2C leagues are best ball, at least on the college side. So this is going to be my first one. Chris is going to critique me. He's going to tell me how horrible I'm doing. I am. Hopefully that actually won't be true because I'm going to be using the Campus to Can ranking. So I'm hoping I'm just going to knock this bad boy out of the park. But I actually decided coming into this, Chris, that I am going to go a little bit different than what you and Chris K did in getting a quarterback early. I think I'm going to hit wide receiver and running back early, and I'm going to try and target those guys like Thomas Castellanos and those other guys later in the draft and see what happens. You guys are probably going to hate my team at the end, but we're going to go a little bit different strategy than you guys did it. If you've missed any of the live streams or shows that we did over the past couple days since this got announced, go check them out. I mean, Mox, Chris K, Ethan Sowers, Austin Nace did a ton of content on this. Very, very knowledgeable on CFF best ball.
Yeah, it was a good time. This is all kind of new to us and really new to the format, right? This is the first time the Underdog's ever had college fantasy best ball, and I think people are learning or testing different strategies to figure out what works. And we had a lot of that discussion the other day, and I think we'll continue some of that here.
And you'll have to let me know when it goes live because I don't have the screen up at all, so I don't know.
I will tell you.
I don't want to miss my pick. So until that happens, we did want to talk a little college football news that we hadn't really gotten to over the past couple of weeks. We've just been knocking out a lot of these different shows and everything, and sometimes Felix doesn't like to talk about the main thing unless it's like Shedeur Sanders and Colorado and Dion. Like he doesn't really like to talk about certain things, or if it's like something bad happening to one of our favorite players or something good happening to one of his. So I want to get your perspective really quick because I don't think we've talked about it on here. I'm sure Jared and them have on Chasing the Natty, what it means for Blake Anderson. We don't have to get into why he's being, I believe it's just suspended right now, but it sounds like will be fired from Utah State.
Yeah, he will be fired, probably terminated with cause. They've already talked about letting go of some other people in charge of Title IX overseeing and stuff. I'm not going to go into the minutia because there's a lot out there. I think this probably stems from some of the comments he made last year, which are widely available on the web. You can look them up. They're not very good, I would say, as a leader of men and a head of a program. But yeah, he has gone at Utah State. I expected that to be permanent. Not much has changes, I don't think. We're going to slide the offense coordinator in and, expect the same type of play calling, I think. There's a lot of consistency. I believe the defense coordinator is being promoted to interim head coach. Yeah, okay. I think that there's consistency there, assuming nobody jumps. I think the number one person that would jump would be Jalen Royals, the wide receiver there, who's pretty good. But it would be, again, still late in the process. So I don't know. I did downgrade Jalen Royals, though.
Okay.
That was it. That was a decision that I made because there's now just less certainty.
Yeah, I mean, Utah State's been an offense that I don't know, want a ton of, but has had some players over the past couple of years that you've wanted to have rosters specifically for the college side of things. So, but you're saying
Blake Anderson, wide receiver ones, is really what we like, and you guys going back to Arkansas State too.
So, I mean, you go and if according to Chris, who again knows much more about not even just Utah State, but coaching and all that other stuff than I do. If he's in there saying, it's not a massive downgrade with the promotions that they're making and the managers, the coaches that they are retaining, I guess it's not a massive shift down for anybody here at Utah State. You said you shifted Royals down a little bit, but not a ton.
Yeah, I moved him down a little. I mean, he's still up there, right? He's still going to go in the top 16, 17 of CFF drafts, but yeah, there's just more risk now.
It's taking forever for this draft to fill. We got like 6 spots, and then we can't get the other ones full. Is it still
I know
waiting
if you're,
on 6?
yeah, if you're watching live, come and join us, man or woman.
Yeah. Come join us. Me and Mox are in one right now, trying to get it kicked off. You can again, you can criticize my team in the comments if you want. The other big news that happened last week that I really thought we would talk about on this show, and we did not, was the all of a sudden change of heart that one Archibald Manning had in now being in the game. It's obviously gotten a ton of love over the past couple days. I think if you did not get the deluxe edition, you will be able to play it, I think, tomorrow. So I just want to I have some interesting thoughts on it, but I want to get all right, Sue Ann's getting in. All right, let's go. You can criticize mine.
There's a reason I said gals. I knew that they would show up for us.
Let's go. What are your thoughts on Arch? A distraction against his football career and being in EA Sports College Football 25, and now this, all of a sudden just reverse, and he's right in the game a week before. I think it was like about a week before the game came out, or a couple days before the game came out.
Yeah, it's funny, right? I actually felt that he was creating a distraction by coming out and saying I'm not going to be in the game when he was at Texas last year, and then he does the whole shebang with Eli and all that. But yeah, come on. The Mannings are marketing geniuses.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing. So clearly, this was probably premeditated.
Yeah. So before I get to my answer, Austin in the chat is asking, "What's that shirt, Chris?" I'm assuming is that a home field shirt? I am a little taken back. You're not wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
No, it is. I'm actually doing my laundry right now, so most of my Hawaiian shirts are in the laundry. It is a Northern Arizona Lumberjacks shirt. Swing
Very
your axe.
nice. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, so Sue Ann is in the chat saying that he probably got paid. He did get paid. I believe it was $500,000 to do that.
He cleared on that.
So the other thing I think is interesting about that is I think you said is probably like in the works. That was definitely in the works way before, because as soon as he was announced, like it was already, yep, he's in the game and he's an 80 plus whatever rating. So like they already knew what he was going to be. He was going to be in the game. I would say, I guess, good on him for kind of holding out and getting more money. But like, man, that was just, to me, I could get it if we're talking about like, I'm trying to think of a player who doesn't have like any of these quarterbacks who doesn't have, I don't know, millionaire uncles and father who's like, you're taking care of the rest of your life. Like, really, you had to hold out for your $500,000 to make it into the game. It's just, I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I bet you the Texas locker room probably feels same, because all those guys opted in for what was $500, right? $500 and a copy of the game. But Arch Manning, your backup quarterback, held out for $500K. A really bad commercial too. If we can all be honest about this, it was not a good commercial just to announce he's in the game.
Yeah, it wasn't a great commercial, but it wasn't about the money either. It's about like the notoriety and the branding and the spread of the commercial and the fact that we're talking about it right now, right? Like, that is why Arch did it, because I don't think there's another player.
Yeah.
Well, I think Travis Hunter maybe could have done it if he wanted to.
Hunter probably, well, with the way they seem to love Shedeur Sanders, I think Sanders probably could have done it too.
Yeah, probably. But there are very few athletes who can actually pull that off. So it will be interesting. The comments are saying that we'll have a whole series of holdouts next year because of that. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think anybody like, and it's crazy because the only reason Arch is in is, I hate saying this because it's not why he was rated this highly, but a lot of it is because of his last name. Like, let's be honest, a lot of people wanted to have him in there. There's a lot of Texas fans, too, that were pushing to have him in the game. So I agree with you, Mox. I don't think we'll see a lot of players hold out next year. Maybe the money will increase some. I mean, clearly the game is doing fairly well already with all the stuff that we've seen. So it'll be interesting to see if more players do. I know there's even been talks of, there was a lot of players, specifically, I know Ohio State doesn't have a lot of or not a lot, but they're missing a decent amount of players still on their roster, a bunch of which will be going in with the first update. I don't know when that goes live because they just opted in late. So still have some people who could go in here within the next couple updates. And yes, Austin, if his name was Arch Smith, this wouldn't have been a big issue. I don't.
That is objectively true though.
It is. Oh, well, no. Not the recruiting part, but
not
the
the
game
recruiting part. Not
Yes,
the recruiting
game
part.
Yes.
Yes, not the recruiting
Yeah,
part.
if he was Arch Smith, right? No way EA's paying him $500,000 to do, unless Eli Manning was like, I really like this Arch Smith kid. I think he should announce and I should be in a commercial with him. Then maybe that's why he would do that much. But there was actually a legitimate best ball question here, Chris. I'm gonna throw this to you. So Cowboys Rings asked thoughts on how many players is in a stack is too many.
Too many is probably 4. I think 3 you can pull off depending on who the quarterback is. So with quarterbacks that go really early, a lot of them are rushing threats. You don't really have a great wide receiver pair with them. Jalen Milroe and Jeremy Bernard is one. Jackson Dart and I think Trey Harris goes too high. So Antoine Wells. But I'm more interested in the stacks that are like Cam Ward and Xavier Strepo with maybe Samuel Brown coming back. That's an interesting stack to me. I like stacking the Stanford offense because it's fairly reasonable. Cedric Irving goes very late. Ashton Daniels goes pretty much undrafted, and you can get like Amenor as wide receiver 1 or 2. Like I think 3 is probably right. There's so many offenses though. Like there's 70 plus offenses in the game, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to look at. And I don't think stacking is a huge priority. I like to stack, generally speaking. I try to stack at least once or twice. Especially if I have a pocket passing quarterback.
But Elliott's in the draft. All right, this will be apparently according to Suan. I'm watching the comments going in, so I'll address these. The draft is about to start, so we'll put it up on the screen. Jared is not wrong. If his name was Arch Smith, he probably wouldn't have been the number 1 overall recruit in the class, but he definitely would have been top 5. I'd argue even top 3. I think really the only quarterbacks were Dante Moore and Malachi Nelson were the only 2 I would have argued possibly being ahead of him. And then Anthony asked right before we jump into this draft, what are your thoughts on the Colorado players, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter? Shedeur Sanders quarterback, Travis Hunter wide receiver, and who is the wide receiver 2? I don't want to speak for you, Mox, but I think, at least I believe Travis Hunter could actually be the wide receiver 2. I don't think. Okay, yeah, I think that's a growing sentiment here at Campus Can. Not that he's not good. He's, I would say, arguably talent-wise, the best wide receiver on that roster, but just from a fantasy perspective, probably the wide receiver 2 on the offense. For you, is Jimmy Horn Jr. the number 1, or is it LeJontay Wester?
I think it's Wester. If you were asking me who I think is the most receiving yards at the end of the year, I think I'm going to say Wester. I think Hunter's probably 2. I think that wide receiver 3 spot's really interesting, actually. I think Will Shepherd could be that guy. But of all the players, especially in terms of underdog that I'm drafting, like Jimmy Horn Jr. is, I think, one of the best values because I think there's a way that he's second on that team in receiving yards. There's a path to him being first. I don't think it's super likely, but he does have a lot of experience. And the other 2 transfers, Shepherd and Wester, are coming in from like one's from Vanderbilt, the other one's from FAU. So like there's a learning curve here, I think. And Matt muted himself. Although I think he's very excited about his first draft.
I am very excited. I did not mean to mute myself. I was just so excited I hit that button. I said I thought it was very interesting. Bud Elliott there at the 1-4 takes Luther Burden. One I want to throw to you, again, for anybody who hasn't watched some of our previous best ball coverage, Dylan Gabriel going there at 3. That's while a very good player, we expect him to have a very good season. Again, has a week 13 bye for Oregon. So in the playoffs, you will lose out on your number 1 pick overall, and possibly one of the best quarterbacks in CFF this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a good amount of risk with that selection. Just straight up. I think when you are losing your quarterback for a week 13, there's only 2 teams on week 13 bye. Nobody's really drafting a lot of Washington. Yeah. So Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Jordan James, Dylan Gabriel. That's a question.
You're up by the way, Max.
I am on the clock. I do not want to go quarterback. There's a lot of good running backs available. I am going to take Devin Neal. I think he has the receiving upside, and this is a half PPR format. I just think he could be really solid for Kansas this year.
Is Jared in this draft too? I see him in the comments, Jared. I don't. Did you mention that you're in this draft? I'm just ready to get like completely destroyed because I already know what I'm doing with my first 2 picks, and it's probably wrong, but that's all right.
I'm interested to see. So Avery Johnson went at 108.
Yeah.
And I've seen some Avery Johnson talk, and I think this is a good place to address it. I'm not taking him there. I'm actually probably not taking him before Jalen Milroe. I probably not taking him before Jackson Dart. Probably not taking him before KJ Jefferson or Kyron Drones. Think he can make an interesting case for Nico Imalieva. I just think Avery Johnson goes too high because I do not believe that Avery Johnson is a dual threat. I think he is a single threat currently. That concerns me.
Okay. Make my first 2 picks. Xavier Restrepo. And I want a running back. I just don't know who I want to go with. I'm going to take Jaden Ott. I think Phil Moffitt takes a small step back this year. All right, so I can't draft that work. Oh, okay, gotcha. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, for anybody who was not here, Chris K and Chris Moxley. I don't know, is Ethan on the same boat as you guys, is trying to get a quarterback fairly early with how quickly they go? I know Suann mentioned in the chat too, by the way. And Suann, if you don't mind clarifying, because I don't know exactly what you mean. She said the ADP has changed a ton since the
Yeah,
first.
it has.
First day. Well, so you noticed that too. What has been the massive change that's happened here?
It's just gotten closer, I think, to what our initial rankings were, and a lot of initial rankings that were out there. Some players were falling extremely far. They shouldn't have. I just think ADP is better in general. I think quarterbacks go very high. I actually just took a quarterback, Jalen Milroe, at 2-4, which is the 16th overall pick. I think if Milroe is there, I think if Garrett Green is there, that's a place that I'm willing to take quarterback. Even though I don't think you need to leave the first 2 rounds with a quarterback. If Jalen Milroe falls to the 16th, I think he's a good value. That's like pretty much exactly where I have him in terms of ranking.
And what is you may have explained this. Sorry, I got all excited about making my first pick. So like I knew you were talking Avery Johnson, but I wasn't really listening. Is it more with like Klein leaving and lack of weapons? Like what is your concern about Avery Johnson? Or is it just that he's going too high for practically an unproven player?
Can he throw the ball?
I mean, Kansas State fans will tell you yes. If you go watch the DJ Giddens video on our channel where I said he struggled throwing the ball in the bowl game.
Can we get non-Kansas State fans to weigh in?
I
just think that's an extremely risky pick. Like, I think there are a lot more known commodities that you can be taking there with similar upside. Like, I think Jalen Milroe has similar upside. I think Jackson Dart has similar upside. I think there is like a 5% outcome where Avery Johnson kind of just like breaks everything because he's such a good rusher. I'm not willing to take that risk in the top 6 picks, top 8 picks of a draft. It's just not how I roll, especially with the running backs that are there. I mean, there are a lot of really good proven running backs that I think will do damage there. So like I'd much rather be taking a Devin Neal, a Phil Maffa, like those types of players where they're going. DJ Giddens if he's there.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And then I kind of mentioned that actually in the video. Again, it was about DJ Giddens, but like I just don't think this offense is going to be exactly the same. I know that I believe Connor Riley, and what is that? That's Lincoln Riley's is it younger brother? Is that correct?
I don't know.
I think so. The offensive coordinator now for Kansas State. I want to say he's related to Lincoln Riley, but I could be wrong there. And I believe he was on the staff with them, but Klein, it could be a different offense. I need to see more growth from Avery Johnson as a passer, despite what Kansas State fans may feel. I'm not saying that he can't get there. He's a very talented player, and we had him fairly high in our recruiting rankings as well. We were high on him, and as a rushing threat, he is dynamic. But I mean, Again, I understand true freshman in a bowl game, but like he passed for 40%, I believe was his completion percentage. And I don't remember particularly seeing any really impressive throws as well. Now he's gotten this whole offseason to get better at that. Maybe he'll go out there, go gangbusters and prove all of us wrong. But like, I just need to see more of it. So I'm with you. Like, say what you want about Jalen Milroe as a passer, Dude was a fantasy stud in the SEC last year. And then he adds arguably one of the best offensive minds in the game in Kalen DeBoer as his head coach, who's actually had multiple rushing quarterbacks as well throughout his time, including one Michael Penix Jr. at Indiana before he lost, all the muscles and tendons in both of his knees. So like he's given us a track record of that. I'm with you. I would not have been taking Avery Johnson that high.
I just think there's a lot of risk in that selection.
Oh man, I probably should have figured Kyron Drones wasn't going to make it back to me, but oh boy,
I thought I could get Kyron Drones at 39.
But Bud snipe both of us. So Dynasty Psychic or Dynasty Psych says, what is the lineup scoring construction?
I'm not sure what that question means.
I'm assuming he's talking about for the best ball draft that we're in right now.
I still don't understand what that question means.
So I think it is, what is it? You start one quarterback.
Yeah. One quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 super flex.
Gotcha. And you roster, oh God, how many is it? 20, right? So 20 rounds?
Mm-hmm.
20 man roster. The scoring is, I honestly don't know what the scoring is. It's probably not great.
It's half PPR.
Half PPR. Okay. So thank you. Jared asked that as well. What is the scoring?
And 4 point per passing touchdown.
Oh, am I about to be up on the clock here?
You are about to be up on the clock there.
Okay. Any advice? Any advice for the first timer here? Because I'm thinking about going quarterback.
Yeah, I think you might want to go quarterback.
I think I know what I'm going to do. Let me see.
There's a lot of good running backs on the board right now.
I'm thinking about taking Felix's guy. Oh God, I feel like I'm Felix Sharp here. I'm debating on taking Castellanos and Manungai right here, but I don't like how thin the wide receivers are going to get.
They will get thin quick. Like, I think
I'm definitely going to take Castellanos. I wanted to get, well, technically I am getting him in the 4th round. I could have taken him 4-1, which is what I was aiming for when I started this. So
now,
oh, you know what? Oh, I want Cam Ward. The whole point I took Xavier Restrepo was I wanted to get that stack, but now I feel like I have to take Cam Ward here.
Get 2 quarterbacks.
I'm gonna do it. I don't like doing that. I really hate doing that, to be honest with you, though.
Those are both above ADP, but I mean, quarterback ADP is kind of so janky right now that it's probably not a problem. So.
Okay. You can be mean. You don't have to worry about her. Felix hurts my feelings on this show every week. So like, just be honest. I probably I know I reached on Cam Ward, but I really wanted that stack. Like that was kind of, and me taking Restrepo there in the first is I wanted that stack. So probably reach for him. I really wanted to take Manungai. Is what it is.
Yes.
You and Chris K talked a lot about some of these running backs that you can possibly snag a little bit later, so I will try and do that. Who are you excited about getting right here? Was it Deion Burks?
It was. I thought Deion Burks and Squirrel were the end of the wide receiver tier, and so being able to start my wide receivers with Brandon Presley and Deion Burks, I think is pretty good value.
So Trey Parker in the chat asked, and I think it's an interesting discussion. You, me, and Chris K had a pretty lengthy discussion on this the other day while we were talking about backfields to kind of avoid. And that was one of them was Missouri with Nate Noel there, who transferred in for App State, and Marcus Caro, who always for Georgia State, right? Yeah. I always, for some reason, think Georgia Southern. Georgia State. They also brought in a true freshman, Keywan Lacey, who I think is extremely talented. So Trey Parker in the chat asked him, for those of you who don't know, Mox is the big contributor behind these best ball rankings here. Where do you have Nate Noel in your rankings? So give us a little background on why you have him and where you have him.
I have him pretty low. Like, I'm still scrolling low. I have him sandwiched between Quelly Conley and Ruben Owens, and that's probably still too high. I have him 134 overall.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you. For those of you listening on the podcast real quick, Austin chimed in the chat. Miami gets Wake and Q's in the playoffs, too, which isn't terrible. Thank you for assuming, too, that I'll make the playoffs. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not huge on Nate Noel. I like him fine, but more of like an arbitrage of like, hey, if the lead back gets hurt, there's value there. Like, I think Marcus Carroll's probably a better running back. I like Nate Noel fine, but like, I don't know. I think this is a year where Drinkowitz actually splits touches for once at the position.
talented player, but again, they also brought in, as you mentioned, or we mentioned earlier in the show, Marcus Carroll. And again, I still think, in all honesty, in my opinion, Keywan Lacey is the best running back in that backfield. Missouri should be a pretty good team this year. I've said that I think they could make the playoffs in this new 12-team format. But I agree with Chris. Like, they could be splitting time, probably between Carroll and Noel. And I just don't think either one of them is significantly better than the other. So, like, I don't think that maybe they go to a hot hand in a game if Noel's having a really good game and they kind of lessen some of Carroll's carries and it goes to Noel, or vice versa. It's just kind of a hard backfield to read at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Although I'm not quite as confident as you are in the Keywan Lacey.
Yeah, I know. I'm alone on an island on that one, but I'm okay. I'm okay being
Yeah.
there. So it looks like you sniped. Bud may have sniped both of us on Kyron Drones. You looks like sniped Suan on getting Burke. She wanted to pair him with Arnold, which would have been a pretty dynamic pairing, by the way.
Yeah. It's probably a stack that you want to try to make, is assuming, just based on Arnold isn't like immobile, but he's also probably not a true dual threat in this format.
All right, so I will ask the South Carolina fan this. Dynasty Psych in the chat asks, where would you feel comfortable drafting Sellers as your QB 3, 4, or 5? So let's answer this from both perspectives, not just from the best ball draft that we're doing here, but even from like a C2C perspective, if you have a startup coming or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just lower on Sellers apparently than like everybody else is. I just think we're getting a little ahead of our skis with him. Like, listen, South Carolina fan, really like Lenore Sellers. Liked him when he was a Syracuse commit and he wasn't even like thinking about South Carolina. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan, but like probably not as big as fan as others. He has a lot of risks. South Carolina plays a really tough schedule in general. It's like, if I have him, I for sure want to take 5 quarterbacks, but I would like him as my quarterback 4 if I could pull it off.
Well, I mean, if it matters to you at all, I'm in the second year of my dynasty in college football 25, and Lenora Sellers is third in the Heisman voting, and South Carolina is the third-ranked team with only 1 loss right now. So
a lot of people are playing with South Carolina, man.
Right.
You got a freaky athlete at quarterback and who's just ginormous, and you got a freaky athlete wide receiver.
So Bud Elliott in the chat says he got his Nuss Lacey stack. If you could read lips, you could probably see me cursing earlier as he took Garrett Nussmeier. That was a quarterback I was really hoping to get later. That could be a really great stack. I mean, I know we mentioned cover 3 a lot on our shows, and I know I'm almost positive it was Bud who was at an LSU camp talking about just how impressive Garrett Nussmeier looked passing the ball. Austin has been a big fan of Nussmeier for the past couple of years. Like, we expect that LSU offense to be really good. That could be a very good and sneaky stack that Bud just got right there.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me, especially given how high he is, and I think a lot of people are Nussmeier. It's I mean, he is just like legit Heisman potential. So I think he's a nice value there, first of all, and I think getting a stack with him is the way to go. I don't know if I mentioned him earlier in terms of players that are kind of easy to stack, but he's one. That I think he's easy to stack because I think you can get Lacey kind of late or later. I think you can get Mason Taylor late, and I think you can get CJ Daniels late. Like, I think CJ Daniels is a wide receiver 2 there, despite him not starting in the spring. I don't know. I don't think that's bad value at all, really. And LSU is probably the one of the teams that I feel confident stacking, given how good I think that offense will be.
I really hate that you talked me into this 30 seconds. I know we couldn't do a live show with it in 8-hour draft, but like,
to be fair, it is your first draft. It is tough.
Because like, I want Scatabo. I do think he has. I'm very high on Arizona State this year. I've said that I think they could surprise some people, but the ADP at 72, and I'm picking here at 60. Like, but I want that other running back. I probably could have waited. I don't know.
I was gonna say anything because I wanted Scatabo. Yeah, I really like Scatabo, but we're actually a lot higher on him than almost double higher on him than ADP. Yeah. I mean, if you remember what he did with Troy Taylor 2 years ago, and yes, that offense throws to the running back, but he's the entire offense at Arizona State for the most part. Like, a lot of those key players left. Jalen Conyers is at Texas Tech. Elijah Badger's at Florida. Yeah. Sam Levitt's a new quarterback. I like Sam Levitt, but yeah, he's good. No, he's fine. Another guy that we were high on, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going to go. With my next pick, I'm going to take a quarterback. I'm probably going to take Grayson McCall.
I mean, I don't want you to just out your top. Okay, you just did. I was about to say, I don't want you to say who exactly, because we have quite a few people who are in the draft in the chat. But so aiming for
That's
Grayson
fine.
McCall, who we have talked about. We think, again, maybe not like an NFL quarterback, but a very, very good college quarterback. We've seen what Robert Anae has done with quarterbacks who haven't even been as efficient passers as Grayson McCall is, hoping that he can possibly get there. I know, but that Bud's living the dream right there. Exactly. You can play college football 25 and draft if you're drafting from your phone. I would be playing right now, but it's in the other room. And I've gotten yelled at for not paying attention to shows and doing something else at the same time. So I don't want to make anybody else mad.
Isn't here. You're good.
Felix is not here, but he's watching somewhere he'll watch later. I promise that.
Yeah. So I do not think it is imperative to go early quarterback. I mean, I've kind of been saying that implicitly the entire time, but the quarterbacks in round 4 to 6, that'll play. Cam Ward, Garrett Nussmeier. I like Grayson McCall a lot.
Preston
personally.
Stone. I mean,
Preston
he's a guy
Stone, I think is good. I wouldn't be taking him. I wouldn't take Haynes King in the 4th round. I wouldn't take Haynes King probably at all. Yeah. Georgia Tech plays week 0. Have a crazy end of season schedule. Have a week 12 bye. They have 3 byes. I don't think Georgia Tech players are draftable at all. Yeah. And if you're drafting them, you're taking them much later than ADP, and something has to go right.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, to clarify, for those of you who do not know or may not have missed some of this earlier, as he just mentioned, with the bye weeks, I mean, Georgia Tech, that's in the key parts of the playoffs right there. So it's not that we think Haynes King is a bad player for the format. It's where his bye week is and you missing out on him. Jared asked a question earlier. Is it too early in the competition to worry about it? Oh, it is too early. I'm sorry. I thought he was asking a question. To worry about ADP, it's going to shift so much over the next couple days, even more than it already has. Right now, it's grab your guy and we can play the ADP game later. Well, I appreciate that, Jared. I'm worried. It's my first draft. I want it to be, impressive. I was trying to wait for certain things. We're just going to go ahead and do it. And I agree with Dynasty Psych as well. Fafita is a nice value here, even with the minimal to no rushing, especially if you expect. I know some people think he's going to take a step back this year. I think Arizona, granted, I think you can say this about 8 teams in the Big 12. I think Arizona has a realistic shot of winning the Big 12 conference. I expect that offense to be extremely good. So for a player that you could possibly get, I think, he just went?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, here in the 6th round, I mean, that's in my opinion, pretty good value. It's also making me hate even more taking Castellanos and Ward back to back, because I want Preston Stone, but I don't want to take him now. I don't know that he'll even fall to me, but I probably could have grabbed one of those Squirrel White. You were talking about that end of that tier right there. Was it Burks and White? I probably could have taken Squirrel White, and I'd have been just as happy getting someone like Preston Stone here, because there's enough wide receivers, or at least guys later in the draft, that I probably could have done that pairing with instead of taking Castellanos and Ward.
I think that's fair. I actually would consider Castellanos here if I didn't already have 2 quarterbacks. Or not Castellanos, Preston Stone. I think he's fine value.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Kobe Hudson though. I like Kobe Hudson. I need a wide receiver. Think he leads that UCF team in targets this year, and I'm not sure KJ Jefferson's a demonstrably worse thrower than JRP was.
I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do.
But I mean, Preston Stone is the last guy in a huge tier at quarterback for me. Oh, dang it. I should have gotten quarterback. I didn't scroll so far down. Whatever. Me not paying enough attention while doing both of these things at once.
What, do you only have 1 so far?
No, I have 2, but
okay.
I would have gone 3 there if I had thought about it a little bit more.
Oh, well, now you're,
because I have a lot of week 12 right now at my wide receiver position. Everybody's week 12.
SC 1245 is definitely listening to this show just to grab Preston Stone right in front of me. Okay,
I didn't see Riley Leonard was there. I would have taken Riley Leonard to be totally honest.
Golly, I don't love.
Right, I'm just stacking the crap out of week 12, which I really don't want to do.
Oh yeah, I need to look at my bye weeks. I haven't even looked.
Oh, Suan's killing it. She's sniping you left and right, dude.
Is that who it is? Dang it, Suan. Dang it. Okay, I'm gonna take Riley Leonard. I wanted it. I was gonna go Preston Stone. I was kind of like building myself up. So that was a great pick, Suan.
I think
That's a great pick.
Castellanos, Ward, Leonard is a great quarterback trio, and you don't have to spend up in the first 3 rounds to get them.
Yeah. Well, I did though. I took
You took him at the end of the. You took him at the end of the third, though. It's not like you were paying premium value. Like I think that's fine for the quarterback. Sometimes quarterbacks go really early though, and I'm just not in on banking on the top guys. Like I think this tier is really where you can make your money.
The only question is who's the 4th quarterback I take now? I think it's just going to be one of my guys and just be like, I'm just going to ride for the good vibes.
I think you can worry a lot less about it now.
Oh yeah. I'm not planning on taking one till like much later in the draft now.
Yeah.
Trying to think of I lost so much money on Daniel's props last year because of but hey, look, I mean a lot of people it wasn't just but there are a lot of people who really thought I don't think anybody expected, Daniels to do what he did last year. Yeah, there we go, Austin. Kyle McCord with that Syracuse schedule, maybe it might be. I was thinking more like Aiden Childs, but you know what? Maybe for the good vibes, I'll take Kyle McCord.
I'm just taking the best players right now. I should be looking at my cheat sheet.
I need wide receiver badly.
Oh man,
I
got 4 wide receivers, and they're all play week 12. So yeah. Thanks, bud. I'm not paying enough attention to the bye weeks. Now I gotta actually have to. I got Brendan Presley, Deion Burks, Kobe Hudson, and Jordan Moore. Great wide receiver core. Like I'm shocked Moore fell there. Only problem is they're all in the same bye week.
So what is week 12 the first week of the playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of teams play week 12 too.
If it's not, like, you're golden. Who cares if you last week of the regular season, then you're set to go. But yeah, if it's the first week of the playoffs, that's probably not great.
No. Theoretically.
And I'm taking that off the screen. Quiet, Jared. Quiet. Don't give away my guy.
Theoretically, I think it's super positive in terms of advance rates to take as few week 12 players as possible. I think you can break ties pretty easily with the week 12 guys. Yeah. I think to be drafting week 13, you need to be taking Oregon players just go high. You have to have really like a lot of confidence. So I have a lot of confidence in Dylan Gabriel, and I have a lot of confidence in Jordan James. I think the wide receivers might go like 5 or 6 picks before I want them. So,
and he's talking Evan Stewart, Tez Johnson, for anybody who may not know what two wide receivers you're talking about. No, you're good. Cowboys Rings asked, I don't know what to do with Nico since I got sniped on Squirrel. Thoughts?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think you can. I'm not sure you need to stack Nico.
Yeah.
But if you do want to stack Nico, you could take an option at the end of the draft. Like, who do we really think is going to be the wide receiver 2 there? I think it's Chris Brazel or Brazel, however you pronounce it. Kid from Tulane. He's who I have ranked as second. I think Brew McCoy is probably third.
I think so.
Do you like Mikey Matthews?
Man, I do, but like I just don't think he's going to be a guy who breaks into the starting lineup. I think it's probably going to be. I thought it was Brazel, him or Brew McCoy, but Brew McCoy is also not like. I mean, was this his 5th, 6th year in college? He's still yet to do it. So like, it's kind of. I would probably lean him. I think Matthews. I want to say it's Austin has said it before on Campus Live. Like he's good at what he does, and if they use like he's the perfect fit for that offense. But like. I think he plays more of like the Squirrel White role. So unless White gets injured, I don't think Matthews is really going to be in there a ton. So I'd be hesitant to pair him with him, assuming he's talking about like this draft right here.
Yeah. I don't think Matthews is draftable. I was just curious what your thought was on him as a player.
Suan, if you snipe me,
I'm fighting for my life right now with these buys, man.
Just draft such a good team that it doesn't matter because like you'll just be. So I assume week 12 you get if you're high enough in the rankings you get a bye or in the scoring.
I would have to double check.
No, you got one pick ahead of me, Suan, and then I get two.
I don't know Cincinnati's bye weeks off the top of my head. Crap, but I do know Cam Cook has week 12 bye.
Who's Scooter?
Oh, okay. Kiner 6-10.
There you go.
I
don't know, but that's what I was saying.
I don't think we get a bye. No, how it works is 2 of 12 advance and then 2 of 10 advance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chris, that's Austin. Bringing up a good point here. If you were using the Campus to Canton tool, you wouldn't be having this issue. I am not using it either. I have no idea what any of my buys are right now, if I'm being honest. So
I should know better because not only put the matrix together, I also pulled all the bye week stuff. And I have 3 monitors too, and I just don't even have that up, and I don't know what I'm thinking.
I shouldn't have done that, but I wanted my guy.
Who'd you take?
I took Cam Cook. It's my guy. I'm gonna take Jonte Cook. I feel like that's a horrible pick, but I don't know what else.
I love Cam Cook there.
Oh, so do I, but I already had 3 running backs. I don't feel like I probably needed him, but I feel like that really helps solidify my running back core, but I probably didn't need him. But I don't love any of the wide receivers there or the tight end. So, and then there was a question about the Anthony asks in the chat. Pretty much everyone I've been listening to has been raving about Cam Cook. What's his downside?
He's not that big.
That's really, I think, the only thing people can knock him for. Like, he's not over 200 pounds. I mean, I think he is. I think personally, he's a very good running back with incredible vision. He's a good receiving back. I've mentioned before, he's really good patience behind the line. Like, he doesn't have the long speed to like burn guys to the end zone, but once he gets going, he will score you some big plays. Like, I just think overall, we've seen, again, mentioned throughout his time at SMU, I forgot where he was previously, but Sonny Dykes' running backs, especially his RB1s, typically produce fairly well. I've talked about it on the show, usually within like that RB2, low-end RB1 range. I think Trey Sanders is cooked. Literally, like I don't think he's going to bounce back. I mean, it should be Cam Cook's job. So I think a lot of people are just worried about his size and that he can't hold up. I mean, I don't really, until he shows that, I don't have any reason to believe it. Like, he wasn't injured in high school. Like, I have no reason to believe he can't hold up to being whatever you consider a quote unquote workhorse at the college football level.
Agree. I really like him. So, okay, now I'm getting my bye week sort of straight because I pulled up my sheet. So last two have been 6-10 instead of 1,012,000.
I'm gonna pull up the draft board here.
Yeah, Suan has it right. It's 2 of 12 in the regular season, and then 2 of 10 teams advance, and then 2 of 8 teams. 2 of 8 teams advance for week 13, and then the finals is at a 94. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, cool. So that matters. So week 12 buys do matter. Because I wasn't sure if it's something like, like, not that it's best ball, but like Scott Fish has that thing where, like, bye weeks going in. Yeah, bye weeks. Like, I wasn't sure if that was the same thing here, but
no, like it's just more teams or fewer teams out of the 12 advance.
Gotcha.
And then 2 of 10 advance, then 2 of 8 advance. So 2 of 8 advancing probably means that week 13 buys don't matter as much because it's a 1 in 4 chance versus like a 20% chance. So there is some game theory around there, which of like, if you get to week 13, is it less impactful because you have an overall higher chance of getting there? If your team's really good and can support somebody like Gabriel, somebody like Jordan James, I think week 13 buys have an interesting point there.
I might have to do one then and just take Gabriel if I can get high enough. Everyone that I've seen, he's gone fairly early. So I think
he's a top 5. He's a top 5.
Yeah, you have to have a top 5 pick to get him, and then I don't even think you could pair him with Evan Stewart or Johnson. Like I said, everyone that I've watched you guys do, both those guys go fairly early as well.
I don't think you can pair them. You have to stack Gabriel and Jordan James, or you have to stack Gabriel and like Terrence Ferguson.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. I think Sadiq is a better tight end, so I would be interested to see what Ferguson actually did this year. But yeah, so I want to talk tight end for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
And
I'm debating on taking one here. My
yeah,
next pick.
Brant Keithy fell, or else I would have just waited even further. So I took Keithy where he did, and I think there's a top 2 at the position, and it is Rhonda Gadsden and Brant Keithy.
Mhm.
I don't think you need more than 2, though. Actually, I don't think there's a world where you should draft more than 2.
Okay.
I think you should only draft 2 at most, maybe 1. And I think you can draft 1 because of the volatility at the position. And I was talking to Chris K about this. Of like, yeah, you missed 2 bye weeks, right, where you don't get points.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, that might not matter considering how few points are scored at the tight end position.
Yeah.
I just think it means that you can't be drafting a tight end with a playoff bye. That's what I think it means.
Well, then Jared just brought that up in the chat because I was going to say I think it's interesting because really, like, people who come at this from an NFL perspective, they're used to at least a couple tight ends like really mattering, and then everybody else kind of doesn't. And I feel like it's more of like every college football tight end for the most part kind of doesn't at times. But Jared said,
yeah.
I mean, you brought up the bye thing. That's part of why I'm not wanting to take Aronde at 1-1 despite his week 12 bye. If I'm smart about the rest of my draft, I can survive 1 week without him.
I think, yeah, I mean, Ollie Gordon's so good that like you're probably okay if you've built a good enough team, right? Like he'll help you get there for sure. I think they're, and I've done it in a draft, so I'll tell you what I did. I took Luther Burden at the 101.
Mm-hmm.
I think Burden's the wide receiver 1, and I moved him there in our rankings. I think there's I'm a little worried about what this injury means for Ted McMillan. He's probably going to be ready for the season. I don't even that tells me he's probably not going to be healthy for the season to start the season. So already there, I'm wondering, what exactly does that mean for him? They get TCU and Arizona State late. I think those are good values. But I mean, you look at the Missouri schedule, and you get South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas to end the season. Like that's a pretty good schedule. I don't know. I moved Burden ahead. I think you can make the argument that Burden should be the 101, especially since he doesn't have a playoff bye.
Yes, Jared, I realized after Chris repeated back to me when I said that it was about Ollie Gordon. I had Aronde Gadsden in my head because of what Chris was saying, and I thought that I read on the screen Gadsden. It was obviously Ollie Gordon. So thank you, Chris, for repeating the question and answering it correctly. Sorry about that, Jared.
Yes. Oh, shoot, I'm up.
So Bud mentioned in the chat he tried taking 0 this morning, and it would not let him. I'm assuming that he's talking about tight end. So
yeah, he is.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Cedric Irvin because I don't know that he's making it back to me.
All right, so we are, what is that? 12 picks in, or what, way into almost into the 13th round?
Yeah, right.
Yes, yeah. 12-8 on the board right now. So how do you feel about your team so far as we've made it through?
I have too many week 12 buys. So I don't love that, but I mean, I actually really like the team. Like objectively looking at it, like I feel really good. I actually feel really good about almost every position. Like buys aside, I think the team that I built is really good. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna draft with Bud earlier.
Sounds like Irvin will not be. Irvin would have not made it back to you based on the comments here.
And Bud takes Irvin ahead of me, and now I got everybody take like Cedric Irvin's ADP's risen like crazy. Now I'm getting smoked out. It sucks. If you haven't listened to the Chasing the Natty that Jared and I did over the weekend, we talked about underrated offenses. I think the Stanford offense is really poised to take a huge jump in year 2 under Troy Taylor. That makes me really interested. I mean, I already liked Alec Ayamanor a lot. Like, I already think he's really good, really fast, really athletic, super, super fun. Kind of like almost a throwback archetype in a way. But I think Ashton Daniels is going to have a good season. I think Cedric Irvin, who's going to have a really good season. We liked him as a recruit, I think, a lot. So yeah, I find myself drafting a lot of Stanford, especially especially in this format where I don't think Stanford players are going to get enough credit. I think they'll go late. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
how many people out there being like, man, I can't wait to draft my favorite Stanford Cardinal?
right.
Probably not a lot.
Where is Ellick going? Because I know a lot of people are taking Ellick and Irvin, but I remember we were talking, you, me, and Chris K were talking the other day on the show, like, it doesn't seem like anybody's drafting Daniels. And K brought that up as like should that be a guy we're kind of drafting late as maybe like your fourth quarterback because of that, especially if you think the offense could take a massive step forward?
I do. Like, right, I think he's a perfect guy to draft in the last round if you need a quarterback. Oh, or like a little earlier. Because there aren't a lot of guys later on that have rushing upside like he does.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking in the same range, right? Cade Klubnik, Baron Morton, who knows if his shoulder is even on his body. Rocco Beck, Curtis Rourke, Hudson Card, Tyler Van Dyke. Like, none of those players have the same upside that Ashton Daniels does, in my opinion. So he's like a super high upside play.
And Suan brings up, but isn't the quarterback really the RB1 at Stanford? Somewhat. I mean, I know Chris K brought up the amount of rushing attempts Taylor's quarterbacks have had. And I would say she also brought up right after that he could lose the job to Elijah Brown. Elijah Brown, not that like much of a rushing quarterback. Ashton Daniels probably a little bit better. If he does play as well as we think, I don't think he'll be losing his job to the freshman Elijah Brown.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. I know that's a pretty gosh. What week is Miami on bye?
Oh, I don't know why you're asking me. I don't have that tool up either. I failed to pull that up. That's why I was like, I have no idea what my team's bye weeks look like right now because I did not pull that tool up at all. So I'll get your
Miami's a week 12 bye. So I took Samuel Brown there. And I'm gonna need to basically take only non-week 12 buys in my receiver position moving forward.
So I got my.
But I love
QB1.
I love the end of Miami's schedule. It goes Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. There's a bye in the middle there, but like that's a really good schedule. Yeah, that's good. That's a good call. You want to show the draft board a little bit, Matt?
Yeah. Let me make my two picks real quick, and then I'll throw the draft board up as I decide what I pretend like I know what I'm doing and decide what I want to do here. I don't want a tight end. I'm gonna go wide receiver.
Stop drafting.
Yeah, tell me who not
week 12 challenge.
Is it? Where do I find the bye weeks at?
They're on our website, dude.
Oh, I have to go to the list. Yeah, see, I don't have that pulled up. I got too many other things going on. I'm gonna go all in on my boy Jamal Banks. I think Dylan Raiola
was your boy.
I mean, he kind of is more of like Nebraska's offense. I think is also one of those teams that could take a massive step forward with Rule. I know you're not the biggest fan of Scatterfield, but like I think
Scatterfield, I like that.
Shot. What is his last name? Is that not? I'm blanking.
Scatterfield.
But they scatter the ball all over
the field. You know?
No, they if you looked at how explosive, like the advanced metrics, kind of like the argument you and me were making back in the day on the Better Sports Show about Quinn Ewers. Like if you looked at his advanced stats, they actually weren't that bad, and it showed a lot of progress. If you look at some of the advanced stats of that offense, I will pull up the draft board now. If you look at the advanced stats of the offense, it was actually fairly good, and I think having a quarterback like Dylan Raiola could change that. Now I can't figure out how to pull the draft board back up.
You see that little square there next to your name?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
There you go.
How do I make it bigger on the screen? Is there any way to make it bigger?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I mean, I want to put this. I assume that's a share button. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. Oh, there we go.
There's CJ Daniels goes.
There we go.
That's higher than he usually goes.
I think CJ Daniels.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's higher than he usually goes. So if you want to stack, you probably need to start thinking about it maybe a little bit earlier. Like I took Sam Brown before his ADP, generally speaking, too.
Here, I'm going to pull up the actual draft board here, and then I will try. I'll just pick from my phone, and hopefully, Felix won't yell at me for not looking at the screen and doing the same thing. But does that work for the people who were asking about the draft board? Does that work a little bit better? I mean, that
looks beautiful to me.
Okay, cool. So I'll just draft here from my phone here moving forward. But okay, so I'm trying to pull up what's going on in the chat. Oh, I wanted to get your opinion on Elijah Surratt. So Felix chimed in and said, "Is he a poor man's Ellick Amayor. Bud said that he's a little bit slower, and then Jared chimed in with he's a big risk. No way to know whether he's just that off. If it's just the offense in general translates to the Big Ten, plus they bring in a metric boatload of other wide receivers.
Yeah, I have no idea what Surratt's going to be this year. I have a really, really tough time evaluating what. I think Indiana's going to be okay. I don't know. There are a lot of people who are higher on Indiana than me. There's just a lot of turnover there. And I think Cignetti is a good coach.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect from the offense. Is Curtis Short going to be healthy? Because he's been hurt. He was hurt all of last year, and he wasn't as effective as he had been. He was hurt the year prior. Is Taven Jackson really? I know we liked him as a recruit, but is he really all that good as a quarterback? Can he sustain the offense? I don't. Last year told me no, and then they lost Sorsby Cincinnati, who I think Sorsby's still pretty good.
Yeah, so Suan says that Bud took, I'm assuming that's Ruben Owens. He's a guy that I also think should have a really good year this year. Yeah, we talked a little bit about him on the stream the other day. Just a guy. Oh, Aiden Childs. Very nice. Good pick. Sorry, I just completely went off track there. But Ruben Owens.
What do you think of Aiden Childs what he's going to do this year?
I do not think that he's going to be a massive fantasy success, but I do think there are weeks that he could do something. I mean, again, I don't know what their schedule is. I know they unfortunately get a lot of the bigger schools in the Big Ten. I'll pull up their schedule really quick, but I just think his rushing is a little bit underrated. We don't have him, at least on the website, as that good of an athlete. I think his rushing upside is a lot better than that. I mean, Florida Atlantic, Maryland, Prairie View, Boston College, right off the bat, I think could have 4 very good games. I think he is a very accomplished and accurate passer. And if you add in the rushing there, I think could be, again, I'm not saying a QB1, probably not even a QB2, but when you're getting him this late, could he finish as a QB3 or something like that? I think so. I think he could put up some points for you. But after that's where things get really tough. Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Michigan, all those defenses, that I think is where he will make a name for himself if he does good against 2 of those schools. That's kind of where, I think he could really make a name for himself on the national scale, because we've been talking about him. Cover 3 talks about him, but does he become that national name? I think that's it. But then he finishes the season with Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers. And Rutgers has been pretty good defensively with Schiano, but I still think all 3 of those games he could be good for you fantasy, especially again with the rushing.
Yeah. The last question is actually pretty interesting. Something I've been thinking about more today than any time else. Are we doing any Week 14 stacks? I think there are teams that you should target in Week 14. Yeah. I think Clemson, especially in the playoffs, is a really nice option, which has me drafting Klubnik kind of late. It has me drafting Phil Maffa probably a little bit above his ADP. The last 3 weeks for Clemson: Pitt, Citadel, South Carolina. South Carolina's D-line is good. I don't know. I like some of the players in their secondary, but I don't necessarily know that it's all that solid. So I think
reach.
I think that's pretty interesting team to be stacking. Okay, State with Colorado bring back. Yeah, I think that's an interesting one too. That game can get kind of out of control potentially. I'm trying to think where you can actually stack the offense and not just a single player. Miami, obviously.
Oh God.
Miami gets Syracuse. Which, I love. I've already been talking about how much I love Miami.
Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo. Let's go. Making the playoffs. Austin thinks so too. So we just got to get past that Week 12 bye, where apparently I've got besides Mox quite a few on that as well. So
I was getting who took Jimmy Horn?
I have no idea. Probably the CFF, the college football best ball master in the draft. I don't know who it was though.
I'm sitting here being where's Jimmy Horn? I always get him here.
Bud makes a good point. Ole Miss, obvious Week 14 stack as well if you can tolerate the Week 12 bye. Which same thing with Miami, as you just mentioned with Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo. Jackson Dart, who I think is going pretty early in drafts too, is he not? I don't know where
that
he's
was
going.
Weird. Oh,
what happened?
My selection timed out on me. So I got Garrett Oakley, who I think is a fine tight end, but I have 3 tight ends who I did not want.
I mean, it's on brand
That's
for
fine.
you, though. It's
I
on
know.
brand. It's on brand.
I don't know why it timed out on me. I had well, maybe I'll get who I want with my next pick. Yeah, Mississippi State's going to be crazy high pace. I don't think Levy really cares about what goes on with the defense. So, that's a good point. I was looking at the rest of the schedule. I think Houston could be kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm about to super flex. No, I love tight ends. I do, but like, I want to take 2 max in this format, and I actually like Garrett Oakley a lot too. Like, I think he's a pretty good option. But I do not want 3.
So Anthony mentions, based on the discussion you guys were just having, that chasing that week 14 correlation in NFL best balls, stacking the late games is a huge edge. So
it is. I just wonder, with like double the amount of teams, if that edge is still as significant. It's a lot of rivalry weekend at the end of the year, so you have to figure out how to balance that a little bit. There's some good matchups, right? Don't get me wrong. It's just you need. I don't know. I don't want to go out of my way to take like Travis Hunter early because I know they get OK State. But that does make me want to at least like I already like OK State players. Like I am drafting Presley. It's a different calculation for sure. I don't really Notre Dame. I think is an interesting end of year. Like they get Virginia, Army, and USC.
Yeah.
What if USC isn't that bad?
I mean, they seem
like
to really like
at the end of the year defensively. They probably struggle early, but like I like Dayton Lynn a lot.
Yeah,
and I think I like Dayton Lynn a lot, and I think they're going to try to change over the culture there.
Oh, so this is a really interesting question here from Bud, because I know you guys, based on the early drafts you guys are doing, we're ending up with a lot of the same players on your team. So are you guys worried about over-owning players who could opt out if their teams are out of playoff contention?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen now, but I know with the way of the playoffs expanding, I've been thinking about that on both sides. I don't think players are opting out if their team is in, like already locked. I think they'll want to try to play for the best seed they can. Maybe you do see players do that, but I'm also curious how significant the tiebreakers are. I haven't done all this math in my head, especially for like playoff weeks and tiebreakers for conference championships. So potentially.
I mean, I would think it would be, but I'd be curious to get your opinion. I would think it'd be a very small number of players, though, because you have to be considering guys who are likely planning on going to the NFL draft, who just don't want to get hurt. Maybe it's guys who are dealing with an injury heading toward the end of the season, and just like whether it's, I guess you could make it a little bit bigger of a list if you're like, could be going to the transfer portal, or possibly, just wanting to wait until next season because they don't want to make the injury even worse. I would be curious. I wonder if the list would be that big specifically. Oh, I'm about to get
16, 20 spots. Yeah, that's probably about right. 16, 20 teams fighting for 11 spots in week 14, 15.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think you can make that assumption yet. Maybe you can. I don't know that I'm trying to.
My boy Sam Levitt seems to be a value here, but I don't know if I could take him. Okay.
So I took Peyton Thorne with my last pick. That's like, how I'm like just getting screwed on week 12. That's the week that you get UL Monroe. So I'm basically saying, okay, I think Peyton Thorne's got a monster week for me and Auburn in week 12.
I don't love Kobe Prentice there, but I don't know who's going to lead that. The comeback is if you know you're not alive for an at-large, but you are locked into the college, the CCG. Like if Gundy screws around and loses to non-con and locks up the Big 12,
that could actually happen too.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, so if you're locked into your conference game, like they could sit. Yeah, that is true. It's I think what makes college football right now so exciting because all these changes, like we have no idea what this is going to do to the playing landscape, like even not just from a best ball format, but from like our, campus to Canton, CFF, like there's so many changes that could happen here over the next couple of years. And it honestly, it could change again in a couple of years with all the talk about possibly going to like a 16 team playoff and whatnot. So it's, we're all kind of like, trying to figure this out on the fly, which could make it also could end up helping, you could randomly win this big contest because of just pure luck, because of someone losing out on like an Ollie Gordon who they took a first round because of something like that.
I took another week 12 bye, but that was intentional that time.
Who'd you take?
Roydell Williams. They get Charleston Southern week 13. Like I understand week 12 is a problem for me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if I do advance to this large field tournament, having Charleston Southern in week 13 would be pretty nice.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Does the LED force
5, 6, 7, 8. So 9, 10. 9 of my currently drafted. What round are we in? We are in round 18. Half of my roster has a bye in week 12.
Yeah, you got to pay attention, and that's on me for not having my stuff.
Oh, that's my roster. My roster.
Early. Oh no, I did the same thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm like, including my tight end. So I need to make sure when I do grab a tight end here, which we'll probably ride out the rest of this draft since it's almost over and that's when we'll call the show. But I definitely need to make sure that the next tight end I grab does not have a week 12 bye.
I'm way better about it on my phone. I feel like I'm way quicker there. Oh yeah, Bud's pissed that he auto drafted a tight end because the answer was 0. See if you can do it. No, you have to draft. Yeah, that's just in general. You have to draft a tight end. Just one. You have to draft one of each of the starting requirements.
So I don't think you can get behind it tight end, Anthony, but Anthony asked, what are you guys doing? Okay, yes. I don't think that you can. I mean, Bud's literally talking about how he got auto-drafted one in the last round. Like, I think if you don't get one of those top, was it probably Keithy and Gadsden? Like,
so I think there are 2 tight ends at the top. I think there's like the next 2, and then I think there's a tier of about 4 or 5. So okay. I think the top 2 are Keithy Gadsden. I think the next 2 are Lachey Loveland, and then I very top for me of the next tier is Jack Failing and Jake Brenningstool. Think those are, I want to be drafting one of those. And then you get like the Garrett Oakley, Brahmer types, which I think are good players, but I think here's the interesting thing. I think if I draft an early tight end, like really early, I think I took Keithy in round 6, so it's not too bad. But I'm almost more inclined to like try to back up my investment. And I know that probably it's antithetical to the format with a second tight end, but I don't think you need more than one. I really don't.
I mean, I do, only because the rest of my team is off week 12. So if I want anybody to start and score me some points, I probably need to grab somebody. All right, let's see here. You up, Mox? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really love any of these players here. Oh, you know what? I think that's a great final pick at quarterback. Do I want to take him here, though? Sitting here.
So I just took Kendrick Law at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever just drafted Chris Mitchell, that's a great. Oh, I think that's Suan, right? That's a great pick. I love that.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not a truther in any capacity of Kendrick Law, but like I do think I want to get somebody in that Alabama wide receiver room outside of Jeremy Bernard. And I would have taken Kobe Prentice if you hadn't taken him. And I have Milrow, and he's not a week 13 bye. I could see it like you don't need a. I just need like a blow up game, man.
I really don't. What do I have? Oh God, I have a lot of wide receivers. That was not what I wanted. I just completely went away from running back and did not even realize it. I'm rocking 10 wide receivers, baby.
Huh? That's probably more than I would go for.
Oh dear God, I didn't even realize this was the last round. Well, that was fun, boys. I got one tight end. That's what I get for not paying attention. Could use a review on my team. Okay, yeah, we'll do that before we'll close out the show. Cowboy Rings. We'll discuss all of our teams. I really hate my last two picks now that I realize I really have no idea how I missed it. This was the last two rounds, and I definitely would have taken Alex Orji there at quarterback, which was what I was thinking about doing. I was like, oh, I got one more round. I'll wait. I'll take him there. Nope.
That is a basically. I know he's a week 12 bye. I'm not really worried about it at my quarterback position.
Yeah.
He gets Northwestern week 13, right? So like I am trying to load up on week 13 with the idea that if I make it through week 12, that I have quarterbacks who like I really like their matchups. And so that's Northwestern for Orgy and I don't like Alex Georgie in general. I don't think he's very good, but and it's Auburn for Peyton Thorne, who gets ULM.
I'm just going to say this because we got a lot of people watching. If you guys like this, I'm going to do this again on Friday because not only did the wide receiver I just drafted as my 10th wide receiver also has a week 12 bye. So this team's going nowhere. I might make it to the playoffs. I will definitely be bouncing out early. Or no, wait, week 12 is the first week of the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm definitely out. I mean, 10 of my 20 players are on bye in week 12. Cowboy Rings, drop in the chat what your team is, and we'll preview
I'm
it.
pretty sure it's just the same thing.
Oh, is it? I didn't look at the names on there. Sorry. Good call on Vandegrift, Murray State week 12. Yeah,
that's a good one too. Of just basically almost any time one of these teams is going to play an FCS team in the playoffs is probably a target. And Murray State isn't very good in general.
No. How is there a way for me to look at the?
Yeah, you can go back and look.
Okay.
Yeah, probably will
draft
this weekend.
Then we go. Okay, cool. So let's see here. Go ahead, Chris. You want to give us a breakdown of your team, and I'll find.
Yeah. Give me a second.
Okay, I'll do mine. So again, as I mentioned, 100% on me for not paying well. Paying. I'm going to use the Felix line. You know, I'm hosting the show. I'm switching things around. You know, I got all this stuff going on. Don't love my last two picks now, knowing that those are my last two. My quarterbacks, Thomas Castellanos, Cam Ward, and Riley Leonard, which I actually kind of like. Went away from running back, though. I started out Jade Knott, Cameron Scadabo, Ches Malusi, and Cam Cook. Then ended up with Micah Bernard from Utah and Damon Claiborne from Wake Forest to kind of round that out. Wide receiver, Xavier Restrepo, Malachi Fields, Jonte Cook, Chris Hudson, Zachariah Franklin, Jamal Banks, Jimmy Horn Jr., Barry Brown, Kobe Prentice, and Justin Ross Simmons. And then, unfortunately, just Jack Velling at tight end. So I like it overall. I mean, not a great team. Again, a lot of players on that week 12 bye. Again, we have it till it camps to Canton. That helps you with that. Again, I'll probably do a live draft on Friday, see if maybe I can get some of the crew to jump on with me. I will definitely be using that tool so that I don't draft 10 players with a week 12 bye this time. What are your thoughts on your team, Chris? Or if you want to give your thoughts on my team, you know.
Yeah, you took too many wide receivers. But you know that.
Yeah.
So actually, this is probably a good time to talk about the ideal roster build.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here's what I think it looks like. It is 5 quarterbacks, 6 running backs. So that's 11. And then I think you could take 1 tight end and 8 wide receivers. Then you take 2 tight ends and 7 wide receivers. I think if you're really confident in your quarterback position, you could take 4, but I think 5 is the ideal number. That's where I would mess around. I think the wide receivers always need to be the most rostered position in general. Yeah, what's Suan saying? 5 QB, 6, 7 running backs, 6, 7 wide receivers, 2 tight end. I'm willing to be more lenient on the tight ends, and I think I could be okay drafting 5 running backs, depending on how early I get my first 2. probably, because I'm always drafting one in the first 2 rounds because they just fall and are values.
Yeah.
So I feel probably a little more confident. I think wide receiver is a tougher position to fill in general, and I think they're going to be it's probably going to be your most common super flex just based on the options at the end of the draft and like spike weeks. But I mean, June can go crazy. I think like those are players I think that go the end of the draft and they can slide into your flex late. There are a lot of options, but I think that's the ideal. Like my ideal build is no more than 2 tight ends, no more than 5 wide receivers, and then I think you can mess
You
around
mean
if you want.
no more than 5 quarterbacks?
5 quarterbacks, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think you can mess around with running back, wide receiver.
So I'm going to give Cowboys rings just so if you need to go or do anything, we'll give your team really quick and then we'll get a Mox. So he was picking out of the 6th position his quarterbacks: Garrett Green, Nico, Tyler Show, and Alan Bowman. Running backs: Jaheim White, Chip Trayanum, Roman Hemby, L.J. Martin, Jam Miller, Dallin Hayden. Wide receivers: Cullen Lacey, Chris Bell, Antoine Wells Jr., Xavier Henderson, Chris Brazel, C.J. Daniels, Lawrence Arnold, and J. Michael Sturdivant. I like that he paired the Brazel with Nico pick with what we were talking about. And then tight ends, Rodney Gadsden and Cole Taylor. So fairly close to your build for the most part.
Yeah, I actually like Cole Taylor. I think he's one of those late round tight ends that I find myself taking a little bit of. I think he did pretty well for the quarterback position, of course.
Yeah.
I think the 3 of Green, Nico, and Shuck is good. I think you probably wanted 5 with Alan Bowman being your 4th, but those are really high end options. I do like this Louisville stack though. I think Colin Lacey and Chris Bell are the wide receiver 1 and 2 there. So getting Shuck there is nice, and I think even if it's like Pierce Clarkson who comes in and if Shuck gets injured, I think you might be okay. The only pick I didn't love, by the way, love the Chris Brazel pick, especially paired with Nico. This is basically half the strategy we were talking about earlier. CJ Daniels. Yeah, I don't know what Jaheim White's year is going to look like. I just don't know what the CJ Donaldson factor is going to be.
So Bud asked us to this. Oh, sorry.
No, that was it. I think it's a good team, especially where you got Gadsden's probably a nice value.
So Bud asked us to talk his team. So his overall 6 quarterbacks, 7 running backs. Yeah, 6 wide receivers and 1 tight end. I actually don't think it's that bad outside of, again, your opinion on how many quarterbacks you should take, but he's got a very good quarterback room overall. Kyron Drones, Garrett Nussmeyer, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, Blake Shapen, and Brock Vandergriff. Running backs: Jordan James, Dylan Sampson, Justice Haynes, Jarquez Hunter, Jadarian Price, Reuben Owens, and Penny Boone. Wide receivers: Luther Burden, Kyron Lacey, Jeremiah Smith, Elijah Surratt, Dominic Lovett, and Noah Thomas, and then just went with the 1 tight end with Keanu Hill. I actually like his quarterbacks and running backs and at least the top end of his wide receivers fairly well. I actually think it's a fairly good team.
I agree. I talked about earlier, right? I think Luther Burden has a case to go wide receiver 1 and first overall. So getting him at 4 is probably one of the best case scenarios. I think it was in a draft earlier where he went at 6. And I was like, man, that's a great value. Same thing with Jordan James. That's the earliest I've seen Kyron. Well, not the earliest. He's gone earlier than that, but that's early for Kyron Drones. And I don't hate it. I think he's a lot closer to like an Avery Johnson type than I think they're pretty close. Getting the Lacey Nussmeyer stack is good. I know you're going for the CJ Daniel stack later, so of course makes sense. I probably wouldn't have taken one more quarterback personally. I think your top 3 are good enough: Nussmeyer, Beck, Drones, but I think the overall team's pretty good. Yeah, Penny Boone there late too, right? I think that's a really high upside running back pick.
Yeah,
same with Reuben Owens.
I love the Reuben Owens pick. I thought about taking Boone there with one of my last picks as well.
Well, Reuben Owens is who I had tiered up when I accidentally went Bryson Nesbitt. So, of course, I think we all like that pick. I think we're a little higher on him than some others. But yeah, I actually think this draft was pretty close to what my expectation of most drafts is going to be. Quarterback went early, but not insanely early. You have really good values in the third round, just in general.
Yeah.
Running backs are really solid going all the way to the end of the sixth. Like Scatterbo at the end of the sixth, I love that pick. I know there's more risk as you get later, but like Corey Kiner, Caden Fegan, Cam Cook, like that's a really nice value range too of running backs. I don't know. I don't think you need to go running back early after you get like a RB, like a true RB1.
Yeah, so Soann says wide receiver is so tough to draft. Yeah, that's something both Chris K and Chris Moxley, who's here with me, talked a little bit about when we did the show the other day. Like once you get past that first like 2 tiers, it really kind of seems, at least according to them, kind of seems to drop off, and you're kind of picking a lot of players from the same like tier and skill level.
Yeah, so I am trying to go wide receiver early if I can. In the first 2 rounds to try to get. So there's a tier drop off, in my opinion. It's Tetaroa, Burden, and then I think it's like a bigger tier. The top guy wanted that tier is Restrepo, and then another big tier. You're talking about Alec A. Mayor, Brandon Presley, Kyron Lacey, Deion Burke, Squirrel White type players. After that, it thins quickly. Like I like Jaden Higgins. I think he could be really good for Iowa State. I love Malachi Fields. Think he could be the wide receiver 1 and get 100 targets. But then you're also looking at Isaiah Bond, who good is he going to be the wide receiver 1? Probably, but it's crowded wide receiver room. LaJohntay Westard, tough at Colorado. Kyle Williams, who I like that. That was a good pick. Jeremiah Hunter, who's throwing him the ball at Washington. It just thins really quickly. Like Swan was saying, it's tough. I actually like what you did in your draft, Matt. I know you went too heavy on the wide receiver, but
Yeah,
like your first, what is that? 9 picks. I actually really like that build. Castellanos, Ward, Leonard, Restrepo, Jaden Knott, Scatabo, Malusi. I mean, Cam Cook. That's a great start.
I think what's really just going to end up screwing me is that, like I said, I was not doing a good enough job paying attention to the buys, which I pulled this up, something Suann said, because I have literally half my team is off in week 12, including my tight end. So like I have to hope that the rest of my team really comes through for me in week 12, because I will literally not be able to start a tight end because I only went with the one. But she mentioned you have to kind of remember what teams are in week 12. Again, if you use our tool, which again, a lot of props to Chris Moxley and Jarek Backus. Jarek Backus is someone we don't talk enough about on these live shows. We praise him a lot behind the scenes. We don't give him enough love publicly. Like they added this in literally the other day. So if you look over here to the far right, it has the bye weeks listed next to it. So if you're going in and you're looking at your drafts, I mean, you can literally come right to this screen and look, say, okay, I've already drafted 2 players with the week 12 bye, and it's got it right there. Oh, well, I'm probably not going Kevin Concepcion or Braden Presley because both those have 7, but they also have the 12-week bye. So, like, you can use that to really help you. I should have had that up. Doing my draft would have helped me out a lot.
I even had it up, and I wasn't even looking at it. It's the curse of too many screens. So how I've seen some people manage it, and this is really smart, and I should do this. Do as I say, not as I do. When you draft a player, just type their name in at the top we have a filter by player option.
Yeah.
And as you build your team, you can see which bye weeks they have. Yeah, I'm not worried about the bye weeks between week 1 and 11. It's really who has a week 12 bye week, who has a week 13 bye week, and go from there. And week 12 has a lot of really good players.
And Suann said, Chris was responding to a comment in the chat, said you could worry less about the weeks 1 through 11 buys just to focus on. No, you're good. I forget as well sometimes that this will be going to a podcast. So just to kind of give that. And then Bud mentions here as we get ready to close out the show, it would be cool if you guys can make the rankings dynamic where you're not downgrading anyone for having a bad buy, but subsequently cascade downgrade others with those buys.
Yeah. From like a team building perspective, that's something we actually talked about, I think, with in our chat yesterday with Felix and Jarek, and we were talking about the possibility of like of data. you'd have to type in your players. Obviously, there'd be some sort of a manual entry there,
Yeah.
and then build the calculation differently. So the calculation is a little different. But yeah, I mean, I use these as a like guide more than anything. Like I'm not yeah, no, I sorry. I keep responding to the chat and not actually reading
No, yeah, I
it
got you.
aloud. Yeah, not I knowing what a buy player has based on who you've already drafted is really important. How
Yeah.
we can pull that off is probably more complicated. So it is something that we've talked about though.
Yeah, it's something we've this kind of, at least from our point of view,
This
came
is Matt.
together fairly quickly.
This is
So yeah,
Matt's. We're gonna
first.
put him on it to figure out the formula.
Yeah. I'm definitely the IT guy. I mean, Jarek Back is who? Matt Bruning. That's who we need
Well,
working on this
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
that's actually a good. That's actually a good like inside baseball, behind the scenes kind of note, right? Like we knew that we were tangentially informed. Would you say?
Yeah.
That this might be coming on Thursday, but we had no idea what it would look like. So, the team really looked. The team really looked and worked really hard to try to get these out
by Monday.
So, yeah, by Monday when we thought it would launch. So yeah, a lot of work behind the scenes. So I just want to say thanks to Jarek who.
Well, thanks to you as well. I know you won't pat yourself.
I didn't have to do much as work as Jarek.
I mean, did. Jarek should, Jarek deserves every and all praise all the time. But a lot of this was put together by Chris as well, fairly quickly. I mean, realistically, I don't know, if we're going to talk behind the scenes here, realistically, we probably could have actually put this out Friday, being notified of this Thursday, but we wanted to wait to make an announcement and have it all come out Monday. And this is, again, due to a lot of the great work behind the scenes by you guys. And we are still trying to improve it. So not even just the suggestions by Bud, if there's things that you guys think would help you in your drafts or anything, do not be afraid to DM any of us. We're working on ways to try and improve these games. Just kind of happen. We're rolling with it to kind of figure out what the best way is to handle it.
That's a good point. That you made. If you have suggestions, that would make it easier. Like this is the first time that we've done this. This is the first time Underdog has had it available, first of all. But it's only been available for like 3 days. Yeah. So there's a lot that we know we need to work on here. And I think we've built the best that we can so far, but if we can make jobs easier for drafting, we want to be doing that. I know the next thing that's coming, and I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since I can spoil it since I'm working on it. We're going to be highlighting in the bye week matrix, schedule matrix, the players, the matchups in like red, green, black, depending on, we use some of CFP winning edge stuff. I use some of my betting stuff for positions to evaluate entire defenses. So that'll be a very quick visual way to kind of see who has really solid bye weeks or playoff matchups or just matchups in general. So that'll be fun. That'll be cool. It's coming down the pipeline. I don't know if it'll be there tomorrow, but I expect to be there next week.
And the last to get out of here on, Felix asked, was Campus to Canton the first to announce best ball rankings for CFB? I believe so. Can't confirm or deny. We were. Yes, we were.
That was the Felix Sharp propaganda machine working overtime.
Hey, we appreciate you, Gary. Thank you. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. My first one.
I'm going live. I'm going live tomorrow again.
I'll go live with you. Yeah, let's do it. If it hasn't again. I mean, I know Suan said that it might be full. They'll definitely open up another one. They ain't gonna just do one. So we'll jump in. We'll definitely do another one tomorrow. We'll actually pay attention to some bye weeks and everything tomorrow. But yeah, this was Campus Live. We didn't even ask Kirk to come on the show today because we knew we were going to be busy doing this best ball. So I'll say apologies to Kirk, but
we'll tell Kirk next time so that we can get him on draft his own draft.
Yeah, exactly.
You're first. Why not get him to do his first?
That'll be the plan for next week's show. All right, guys, we appreciate everybody checking us out live and listening to the podcast. We'll catch you guys again later.
All right, take care, y'all.